Here we are in this now moment. I would like to invite up this morning two licensed practitioners, Vicki Lopes and Katt Llewelyn. Would you come up, please? And we are the three spirits that get to share with you the fourth chapter of the Science of Mind textbook, and it's how to use it. So, beloveds, again, greetings. The past 3 weeks, several practitioners, 3 at a time, have highlighted the first 3 chapters of the Science of Mind in the textbook. And those chapters were the thing itself, the way it works, and what it does. So this morning, as I mentioned, we're going to share chapter 4, titled How to Use It. Each of us will offer a personal example of how we've used Science of Mind principles in our lives. Now, lately, many of you may have heard this in the world, follow the science. Have you heard that before? Yeah, it's pretty loud and clear. So our presentations today will do just that. We're going to follow the science of mind. And we're going to follow the science of mind with what we call treatment. Now, on page 51 in the textbook, our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, defines treatment as a scientific method for transformation. And I quote, "One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to engage in too much theory and too little practice. Today, we're going to show you, example for you, the practice." So, first up, Vicki.
Good morning, everybody. So good to see you all. So, here we are, ready to put the frosting on the cake, so to speak. And thinking about frosting and frosting a cake, what kind of tool would you use? What's your favorite tool? A spatula. Anything else? A knife. And I myself have sometimes used a fork where you get those little things that come up and make it look kind of pretty. Well, so why do we choose those particular tools to frost a cake? They work, right? Yeah. And we've tried it several times and they continue to work. Well, they end up being the best tool for that particular job, the tool that does it best for frosting the cake. Well, so have you ever had a tool that is more complicated to use, like maybe a power tool or a kitchen juicer, or maybe some gadgets you have to put on your sewing machine? And it seems so complicated that you wonder, oh God, I don't know if I'm even going to be able to use this thing, but I know it's supposed to be really good. Well, when you take the time to learn how to put it together and follow the process that it shows you how to do and take the steps to do it, after a while, when you've practiced, it's a piece of cake, right? Where you thought, oh, I'm going to throw this out the window. So that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the treatment, as Reverend Michael said, and the steps that go with that. And the treatment is your go-to tool. And that's what the other tools that we just talked about were, the best tool for the job and the go-to tool. And so how to use it? It being the Spirit or God or whatever name you wish to call it. That's what we're going to be talking about today. The best Science of Mind go-to tool for prayer, and that's a spiritual mind treatment. So this part of the lesson is probably very familiar and a refresher for many here. However, there may be some people who want to have a clearer understanding about this thing called a treatment. So slide 1, please. So what is a treatment? Well, in the Science of Mind textbook glossary, a treatment is defined as an art, the act, and the science of consciously inducing thought within the universal subjectivity, which practitioner Amy spoke in the very first book, for the purpose of demonstrating that we are surrounded by a creative medium which responds to us through a law of correspondence. In its simpler meaning, treatment is the tie, process, and method necessary to the changing of our thought. Treatment is clearing the thought of negation, of doubt, and fear, causing it to perceive the ever-presence of God. So a spiritual mind treatment, or many have heard treatment for short, is a scientific spiritual process of 5 steps that move the prayer forward. And it's built to where each step builds on the other. And it has a movement of motion that has an E in front of that, emotion. And along with that is conviction. It's said with conviction. So when a healthcare provider provides a treatment for a patient to improve the patient's health, the intention with the healthcare provider is that that treatment will someday improve that person's health. Well, when you or someone such as a licensed practitioner do a treatment, then the treatment that's being done is with the knowing. That spirit knows that the prayer request is already done in the mind of God. It's already done in the mind of spirit. So let's move on to those steps of treatment, and I'll be covering steps 1 and 2. Next slide, please. Okay, so a treatment consists of the 5 steps, and then step number 1 is recognition. Recognizing that God is, and God is all there is. And that's to say it simply. It's easier to remember, I think, at least for myself, a simple way of remembering these steps. So with recognition and saying step 1, someone might say it such as, there is one all-knowing, all-powerful presence. And that presence is omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresence. And it always has been, it is, and forever shall be. And that's an example of what one might say in step 1. So I want to illustrate step 1 a little bit further with a personal experience that my husband Alan and I had when we were evacuating during the campfire. And when we realized that we needed to evacuate, we immediately aligned ourselves in spirit in our own unique ways. Because we knew that that's what was guiding us, that all-knowing, that all-powerful, that omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, loving being and presence. That is what gave us strength. That's what gave us courage. And that's what guided us, because that is knowing that God is our source. So the next slide, please. So step 2 is unification. God is in and as and through me and all there is. All there is. All there is out in cyberland, in this room, everywhere. So we made it to the Skyway. And we knew we needed to make some very important calls. And those were to our children. But the first call we made was to a science of mind practitioner for treatment. And luckily, we were in an area that we still had cell phone range, which, was that really luck? And it's an area that is iffy for the cell phone range. So we reached her at work, and she did the treatment, and we listened to it on our cell phone speakers. I tell you, that was so grounding. It was so good to hear her voice. So reaching out to her was the continuation of step 1 and the beginning of step 2. Her treatment reminded us and affirmed that we are all unified as the one that expresses so magnificently in and as and through each and every one of us, all beings and all things. So our practitioner friend completed her remaining 3 steps and hung up, and we were on our way. Miraculously, we were able to get in touch with our children who live either way out of town, some other part of the state, and some live in another state, Georgia. 2 of our kids are teachers, and they were already in their classrooms. So what are the odds of getting in touch with your kids while they're already in their classroom? Well, the miracle was the treatment, because that's what the miracle is, God in action. So why be in awe that it's a miracle? It's God. God's always here, always in awe of God. So expressing in and as and through each and every one of us, for me, for Alan, for our family, for everyone around us as we're going down the Skyway, and everything that was happening, every creature. So that really aligned us with knowing that it was already done, that we can trust in that, have faith in that, believe in that. So in chapter 4, page 54 of the Science of Mind textbook, it says, "The practice of the science of mind calls for a positive understanding of the spirit of truth, a willingness to let this inner spirit guide us with the conscious knowledge that the law of the Lord is perfect." That was in quotes, Psalms 19, verse 7. It goes on to say, "And we must believe this to be a fact," and in big, bold print, "insofar as our thought is in accord with the perfect law, it will accomplish, and nothing will hinder it." So I'd like to conclude my portion of our lesson, as Reverend Michael refers to it, our try-on lesson, 3 of us, with the chant that I sang all of the way down the Skyway. And it actually is my go-to chant after prayer to help keep me aligned and help me cope when fear seems to have its grip on me. So many of you may know this chant, and for those of you who don't, what we'll do is I'll chant the first line, and then we'll sing it together after each line. How does that sound? Okay. So it's called I Release. I release and I let go. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit be my guide. I let the Spirit be my guide. And my heart is open wide. And my heart is open wide. Yes, there's only room for God. Yes, there's only room for God. No more struggle, no more strife. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I see the light. With my faith I see the light. I am free in the Spirit. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, there's only room for God. Yes, there's only room for God. Namaste. And now we'll move on to hear more from practitioner Katt Llewelyn.
How to put my glasses on. So, I guess we can move on to, I gotta keep maybe back and forth. Next slide. So I have been, oh, for recording me, okay. Can you, okay, it's on. All right. So my talk here is about step 3 of treatment. It's realization. Mine's going to be maybe a little more day-to-day events. You can use treatment during trying times, or you can use treatment for fun things even, and I'm going to show you how. So step 3, there is realization is an acceptance by the mind that a thought or a condition is actual. And a perfect realization is where we are referring to a realization of our oneness with good, or God, or the universe. So I'd like to share with you a reading first before I go into the fun part. So this is called Divine Power. It's from the book Thoughts Are Things by Ernest Holmes and Willis Kinnear. So Divine Power. Everything in nature is an individualization of one coordinating life, one presence, and one law of being. The mind has become so filled with that which contradicts this, that even the truth has to await your recognition. You must learn to become consciously aware of the divine presence, and the divine power, the wholeness of truth, of love, and of reason. Instead of dwelling on negative thoughts, cause your mind to dwell on peace and joy. Discover the power of the invisible spirit that is working in and through you now, at this very moment. Lay hold of this realization with complete certainty. Slide number 2, please. Here's where the fun begins. Here are my 2 examples. And I'm going to show you how I brought these family members into my life. This part of the talk is called How to Get Your Own Dog. And I should say how to get a new dog. And let's also say that this is an example of before practitioner training would be Scout, the white dog, who is my daughter's dog, and Pongo, the little corgi, who is my new dog. He would be the after practitioner training. So the way the story goes with Scout, this would have been, I think, 2013. My daughter was about 13 years old. And she came to me one day and said, Mom, oh, please, Mom, can I have my own dog? And I had 2 dogs already, a little breeding pair of Yorkies named Rio and Dio. And they were getting older. But I was kind of, do I want another dog? Because usually, right, I'll be the one that has to take care of it, not her. So there was kind of a deal made. Okay, all right, well, I'll consider it. But what I did say to her was, she's like, Mom, please, now, can I please have it now? Mom, wait, come on. And I'm like, this is the, patience, wait for the right dog to. So then I said, Holly, ask God. She doesn't like the word God totally. So, okay, Holly, ask the universe. Tell the universe what you want. And then just wait and, trust. Have faith. And during this, I was in process of teaching my daughter things that I knew some stuff, but I didn't know everything that I know now. So anyway, I planted a seed in her, and that seed started to grow. This is when we talk about the seed, the soil, and the demonstration. So we'll forward about 3 months later, and it was just before Christmas. Say 3 days before Christmas. And this little white dog showed up on our doorstep. Now, he had a collar on, so we brought him inside and called up the Glenn County Humane or whatever, and nobody ever claimed him. So he became our dog, and what a dog. He's just the best dog. Now, I didn't know what I was doing there. That was an unconscious, I knew I believed. I didn't know if she believed. But that was a demonstration of how to use it, even if you don't know what you're doing, okay? Faith, blind faith then, just going on faith, and love. She wanted a dog. She'd love to have a dog. So I believe in reading signs, knowing the divine is present. The thing that came along with Scout was I had a big old pumpkin from Halloween still out on the deck where he showed up on our doorstep. And it wasn't rotting. It was just sitting there. But I came out that day, and the cap had come off of it, and there were seeds. 1 million seeds laying on the ground. I looked at that like, wow, in retrospect, seeds had been planted, and there was a demonstration. So that was pretty cool. Now, let's forward, say, up to 2 years ago, 2 summers ago, for this guy here, Pongo. So it started one day, I don't know what month it was. Me and Julie over here, Julie Fisher, another practitioner. We were at the end of practitioner training, I believe. I'm not sure exactly the time, but I'm pretty sure we were right at the end. And I had been asking people, Crystal, talking to everybody like, well, gosh, my 2 dogs, Rio and Dio, had passed. It had been 3 years, and I said, I'm never getting another dog, because I went through the whole, I kind of hospiced my dogs, or I did hospice both my dogs. And it was difficult, very, very challenging, and I swore I didn't want to go through that again. Just didn't. But 3 years passed, and boy, I'm just a dog person. So I was asking people, do I do it? I see dogs, and I want one. Oh, God, Then Julie says, Katt, why don't you go home and do treatment? Okay. So I went home and I did treatment. So I'll tell you what I did. Skipping the first 2 steps that Vicki just talked about, I had already recognized, and I knew from previous experience in my life, that I know there is a divine power. I know that love exists. So I did my step, and I spoke my word that there is one power, one presence in the universe, and I know it's here now. I know that it works for my highest good. I unified it too, that I am good. I am this presence and power. And then I moved it into the third step, which was saying, I know that the perfect dog is here now. I know that this perfect dog is going to show up in perfect timing and in divine order. And I know that my highest good is involved in all this, and I have divine guidance. So the perfect dog is going to show up. I didn't say it was all here and now. So I knew that if I had patience and I followed my guidance, my intuition, that I would get what I want, that is good for me. And in the process here, I was feeling it, knowing it, and loving. Oh God, I'd love to have a new dog. You know, the truth is, I'd love to have a new dog. Now let's forward a couple weeks to another walk. We were doing, by the way, TGIF, thank God it's Friday, walks that we have here at the center. So if anybody ever wants to go on a walk with us when we start again, when the weather's better, me and Julie are leading that up. So we were back at our walk and walking, walk. And then I think we're on our way back and we see this family with this corgi. And in my mind, I went, God, I'd love to have a dog like that. And then I did oh no, yeah, right. They're expensive. I'd never be able to find, no way. So negation, all that, but I had done treatment already. So I let it go. And by the way, when I did treatment, I also did this other steps, which I had a grateful heart. I thanked, and then I released it. And I just, if a dog comes, a dog comes. So 10 days after I did God, I'd love to have a little corgi, I got a text from my daughter. And Trevor, next slide. This shows up. He's big now, because you can see from the other picture. So, yes, I would like to say too, in my realization of the treatment, I also put up no obstructions and no obstacles, no fear, no doubt. As I spoke that, and I spoke that, I just believed, and I just knew. But boy, this is the part of, I would say, when you have a demonstration like this, or the other dog even, and you have a way of being able to read what I call the signs, okay? This is the thrilling part. This is the wonderful part of knowing how to do treatment and knowing and having these tools, because you get this rush and this and if God will do this, God will do other things. And it is the practice more and more. So it's the getting excited about, God, what can I do next? And then, and I'm working on this, bigger and bigger things, or even doing this, I had to pray to get through this right now, guys. But anyway, I think, and I'm not even using my cards hardly, I spoke with conviction, knowing it, with no doubt, believing it so fully in the power of my word that it happened. And the last note here, or I should say, do you guys notice anything in this picture that could show you that God might have been involved in this? The little halo, right? Yeah, my angel showed up, yes. So to wrap this up, I'd like to end with an Ernest Holmes quote. Quote, all the power of the universe is with you. Feel it, know it, then act as though it were true. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have the opportunity to, my first slide, please. Express gratitude. That's the fourth step of treatment. And I most often, I can't say it for all the time because that would be a lie. I most often begin my spiritual practice in a consciousness of appreciation for what is now. Now, what is now, I found out, I didn't know all about all of what was going to be said. I knew it would be perfect. I didn't know what was going to be said. But I knew it would be perfect. And it is. And it has been. Thank you. My consciousness of appreciation for what is now, I begin to remember and reflect how I got here and those intentions, emotions, and spoken words. Intentions, emotions, and spoken words, as mentioned, are always at work, for they are how I use the law of mind, the God, the spiritual self, the it, how to use it. So I begin with gratitude, and when it wraps through unification, demonstration, or when you're demonstrative with your word and comes full circle back to gratitude, that's how I use it. It's easy to start off when you're in a sense of gratitude about life, isn't it? But even in those times when you're not all roses and honeybees, that's the time to remember what you're grateful for. So my personal example is, part of it, some of it you've heard before. But I like what Katt said about, I demonstrated a new dog. Spell that backward. God. So 10 years ago, when my former partner had passed away, I took a walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Have you heard of that one? But the key here is not to buy real estate when you're there. Now, it's important that you walk through all of that, because you have to acknowledge that there is there's sorrow, there's a feeling of loss after 42 years of what was life. Treatment was and is for the clearing and uplifting for me and for all of us. So that's what I began doing. And so as I walked through, it took a while. It was not a fast walk. It was, you could run through and deny and cover stuff up. But it's important to see and appreciate in that process what had been. And so I was able to say to myself, I'm grateful for the life I had and for what is yet to be. Because no matter what our situation now, I think each of us can remember back when their life was, say, better than some conflict now, right? There's always a sweet spot that we can go to. And maybe it's now. Maybe it is now. Some of you know I created a list of the wonderfuls I'd already had. This is an important process for us to try and use every day. A list of what you're grateful for. Whether it be your partner, your home, your dog, your practitioner through the fire, all of that. Reflect on the gratefuls. And know what you deserve. The deservables are important too. Most times we don't feel we deserve what we do deserve. So my life is now filled with so much love. So much love. I got to step back into this family in 2016. And in 2019, a man named James stepped into mine. So it comes from being grateful for a feeling of love, something you've had that was dear, and yet there's more. There's something greater. There's something more to understand and to accept. Science of Mind textbook says, and I quote, "Treatment is the perfect tool to realize something for ourselves." And when we get to use this tool in a conscious way, as mentioned, it consciously directs the knower to the doer, which creates in like mind that which we deserve. Every problem is primarily mental, and the answer to all problems will be found in spiritual realization. End quote. I have a warning for you. When the only tool you have is a hammer, all problems resemble nails. Thank you. So be mindful, beloveds. Follow the science. Utilize all the spiritual tools provided. Treatment is your dearest companion. Be grateful for it. Give thanks for it without restrictions. And fuel it with all the attributes that you deserve. And the final step is release. Release. Release any doubt, attachment. If you can't be fully grateful in your treatment work, you got to go back to step 3, because maybe you ain't got it yet. It's going to be, you're going to get the wrong dog. So the importance of gratitude into the release portion of a treatment, it's just a real natural flow of our consciousness and our law of spirit. That when we can let that flow through us, be so comfortable in it, that there is no doubt that all is well. That we can say, I now release all of this goodness into the law of mind, right here, right now. And we affirm with, and so it is. Namaste. So it is.